Today we have come to the south coast. This is the beautiful beach beside Hengistbury Head, an area that people often come for holidays, tanning and swimming. We're going to be using for wildlife photography. We're going to start down on the beach, seeing what photos we can get before moving up Hengistbury Head and around the marshes behind it. This area is rich in wildlife, so rich it featured on BBC Springwatch last week if you were watching, so I'm super excited. This video is going to be mainly POV, but I'll also stop and talk to you if we find some awesome wildlife, and I want to tell you anything about the cameras we're using. So what cameras are we using? In the camera bag today we have my usual setup that you'll have seen in quite a few of my videos. Here we have the Canon 7D Mark II and the Sigma 150 to 600mm lens on the end. Shooting this vlog, I have the Canon 250D and I'm using the kit lens Canon 18 to 55. That is all on a tripod, and then when I'm getting my POV footage, I'll be using my DJI Action 2. All of this equipment is linked in the description if you want to take a look. The microphone I'm using is the Boya M1 lav mic, which is just inside my shirt, and I'm hoping, even though it's pretty windy at the beach today, you can still hear me fine. The sea on this side of the groin is significantly further back than the sea on this side, and I've decided I want to get a pretty cool shot. So, as I was talking about my DJI Action 2 here, I have some underwater casing for this camera. So we're going to put this camera in the underwater casing and put it in the sea. I'm envisaging some cool shots, like when you get the waves curling around. I have no idea what to expect, and the sea is probably way too murky and sandy. But I'm gonna give it a go because it's not gonna hurt, right? And here we have it, a underwater DJI Action 2. Let's give it a dip. And we haven't found too much wildlife on this part of the beach. But that makes sense because this is the commercialized part of the beach. There's a couple of seagulls, but this is where people come to relax and to have fun. It's where the tourists come. That, however, may change when we head up Hengistbury Head. That cliff has loads of wildlife. It's an area full of habitats that vary from cliffs to grassy areas to marshes and ponds. There's tons of wildlife, so hopefully we'll get tons of photos. It's a little bit of a hike up there, and it's surprising how tiring it is walking on sand, so I can't wait to get onto the concrete path and start gaining altitude. Along this cliff face right here, there's a ton of martins. They're flying really fast through the sky, so I'm struggling to get photos, and I have competition. I'm not sure if you can see, but down on the beach, there's another photographer, which means now I'm super determined to get that money photo. It's just very difficult because they move so fast and they're so small, and if I use the focal length of 150, I can generally get them in the frame, but as these photos show, you can't really see the bird. They're in focus, but they're so small, and I'd have to crop so far in that it's not really worth the photo. So trying to get zoomed in to about 400 is what I want to be using, and getting them in focus, wow, it's a challenge. But I'm gonna keep going because, as I say, that built-in competitive side of me needs to win. I'm trying to use manual focus because I believe that's going to help me control the focus when they're flying in the sky, because the birds are so small and I'm having to use a relatively sharp pinpoint focus. When the bird moves, it just focuses on the sea or the cliffs behind the bird. I'm on the move. I'm going to try and get a better angle. The sun is in front of me and I was shooting almost into the sun. So now I'm going to get the sun behind me to hopefully light up the martins. It means I am going to have to climb in some longer grass, but I am so committed to getting this photo now. It's ironic, I know, but I'm back on the beach and I've actually taken the spot that the other photographer had. Turned out she wasn't even a photographer. She had binoculars, here's a picture. But if that's you, then thank you for inspiring me to get these photos and actually pointing out to me that there's rows and rows of martin nests under this cliff. So I'm gonna stick around here and see what photos I can get before we move on to our next landscape. We've spent quite a lot of time on these cliffs now. We will get to the marshes. And the scenery has changed quite dramatically because we've gone from one side of Hengistbury Head, covered in beaches and sand and cliffs, to the other side, which is full of forest and marsh. Now, normally you can get through to the beach huts on the other side of this footpath. However, at the moment, there are signs up like this one here, saying that you actually can't get through because of storm damage. They had to remove some bridges. That is a shame, but there's so much wildlife on these marshes that even if I can't get all the way through them, I still have to come and see what wildlife we can find. Here you can see there's a bit of a trench which has some water in it. We're currently on higher land, but it does get lower, it does get wetter. I think the tide is really far in because to my left, I'm not sure if you can see that, the water is all the way up to the fence. Well, sometimes there's kind of a beachy area out there, and that's really good for things like sandpipers and oyster catchers, and so I'm hoping we'll still get some of them. And since leaving the martins on the cliff, we found another one here. Now the wind is picking up and it's making this video quite wobbly, but you may have noticed I've swapped to my Canon 250D because we're trying to get some video footage of this martin. He's currently just hunkered down on a fence that runs along the side of this marsh. Well, the martin flew away, but I managed to creep all the way from you to here. I'm pretty proud of that, and it shows you should never be too scared to stalk a bird. Just do it slowly, in little bits, and you may be able to get closer. We got significantly closer and got much better clips because of it. I dropped my lens cap halfway through intentionally because this was really adding to the wind, and the wind was blowing the camera around, and I didn't really want it to do that. So deposited this, which is a trick if you have a camera with a huge lens cap, hood in fact. These things pick up the wind and they will shake video. Now don't get me wrong, the video isn't perfectly stable, but it's not too terrible. So yeah, if you can do that, do that. Now, I've only just noticed the time and I'm gonna have to be heading back now. It's flown by, and I think half the reason is because I've been so determined to get those martin photos in the first place. Ironically, we've now found one here and got a pretty good video of one, and I'm pretty happy with how today has been, and most importantly, I've had great fun. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, hit that like and subscribe. Put any questions or comments you have in the comments down below, and the link to all of this equipment is in the description if you want to go check it out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.